are in the Western Cape province conducting an oversight visits on disaster-funded projects within the Knysna municipality. The projects were funded under disaster relief and recovery grants, which were introduced during the 2011-2012 financial year with the primary aim of augmenting available resources or existing resources within the affected organs of state who are not able to cope with the effects of disasters utilizing their own resources.
The extent of the damage to the hostel was very large. We had the entire top floor was completely gutted by the fires. The fire originally started in the hostel parents' rooms, and it burned through the floor of the top floor and set the bottom floor hostel parents' rooms alight as well. And it just travelled through the entire length of the hostel, and there were burst pipes and all sorts of things that happened. And that obviously just exacerbated the damage that happened as it leaked through into the buildings below and completely destroyed everything. We were basically just left with a shell for the ground floor and the first floor. And then the top floor of the hostel there was nothing left.
The first day or two was almost chaos. You had to put in structures, like the ICS, the Incident Command System. How will it work for us as municipality? So we had to quickly start with the operations. So the operational legs started from the beginning, from the start, that early morning of the 7th it started. But then we had to unpack the process of who's going to be the job commander. Would be me, but it will also be the Eden District Municipalities head or manager of disaster. So we started with that, and we call it clusters. So we had a job commander and then cluster underneath that. So there would be a social cluster that will deal with the social development component, the social, all those related things that's with social. So then also a financial and economic one, then your technical side, and then also your operational sides that would run. And then we would put in a cluster like the safety and security would be the police, the military, the Air Force, all those guys that were being pulled in to assist us. That structure helped us right to the end. I mean, the last cluster that we closed was about 6 months after the fire. We closed the social development section. So I think the relationship which you built over the years helped us in the fire to get the people from Cape Town to come down, because you know somebody, and you know someone at municipality, at the district level, provincial, but also national level, and how you filter it up and down. So I think the relationship plays a vital role within any disaster, and how you pack it to be understandable and for people to understand how it operates in a disaster.
It was one of those things where you try and put in a box the emotions that you're dealing with and just find out how you're going to get through this, and get through this as calmly and as well as what you can. And I think it was amazing to see how community just pulled together so rapidly. And it was heartening that we were able to help our staff in some level, but also we were able to use the personnel that we had to ensure that our buses were delivering food, helping people get out of places, get to new places, and just actually join into the community and help. But underneath everything that was going on was just shock and fear and concern over what is going to happen for the future, how we're going to get through this. I think in a lot of ways it helped to bring a community together and to help cement the identity of Knysna High School. I do refer to it as the baptism of fire, and it was a little one, but it was good for all of us in the end. It would have been better if it never happened, don't get me wrong, but I felt that we came out of it stronger, and we came out of it stronger because we were able to forge new connections, new bonds, and new community interactions, which were vital at that time. And we've seen since then, after pandemics and stuff like that, there's still those ties which bind us. Now when I look back on it, I just feel immense pride in the staff, in the learners, in the parents, and in the community of Knysna.
The Provincial Disaster Management Centre, like any other centres in the country, is mandated by the Disaster Management Act. So our main role is to coordinate all the disaster management activities and ensure that we report to the National Disaster Management Centre, although currently we are based under the Department of Local Government within the province. Our role and responsibility is also to ensure that we keep on par with all the activities going on, all the reporting and all the plans in line with the National Disaster Management Centre. In addition to that, our main role is also to ensure that all the district disaster management centres are able to function properly. As you can see within our centre, we are already directly linked to all of them in terms of disasters that they are unable to cope with. I'd say fortunately or unfortunately, there were early warnings before those fires. So the early warnings that came through during that week before the fires, it was for the storms that was going to hit the Garden Route and most part of the province. So the Provincial Disaster Management Centre was already activated at that time. So all the stakeholders, all the line functions, the sector departments that were supposed to be managing all the emergencies were already in our centre at that time. So activation of that, the Incident Command ICS module were used to ensure that all the response, all the key holders are functioning together to ensure that all the elements of operations are underway. So we were able to do assessments in all of that and coordinate the reprioritization of funds, and where the sector departments was unable to assist, we then applied for the disaster relief and disaster recovery grant from our colleagues in the National Disaster Management Centre.
The grants are conditional and can be accessed only once the conditions have been met. One of the conditions is reprioritization by affected organ of state and repurpose the money so that disaster grants can supplement the shortfall. Upon receiving the reports from the provincial departments, the NDMC consulted national departments to facilitate the verification of damaged infrastructure as well as assessment for estimated cost. A professional service provider was deployed to the affected areas to confirm the estimated cost as well as the damages. The NDMC recommended to the National Treasury to release an amount of 25.8 million to rehabilitate and reconstruct the damaged public infrastructure in the form of the school hostel. An inception meeting was arranged by the NDMC to take the affected organs of state and the grant beneficiaries through the disaster grant frameworks as well as the conditions that are applicable, especially when you are implementing projects that are disaster funded.
First of all, WCD needed to engage with the school, so we visited the school and the hostel to ascertain the damages and the extent of the fire damage to the hostel. After that assessment, we've engaged with DTPW, the Department of Transport and Public Works, to investigate the situation in greater detail in order to attach a cost estimate to the works and to advise on the way forward to reinstate the functionality of the hostel. DTPW then engaged with their stakeholders and their procurement processes to activate a contractor as part of a service provider to complete the work, in addition to the professional consultants and professional team that was required for the oversight of the project. The project then started during April 2019, which we then moved towards a completion in November 2020.
The way in which WCD ensures that the infrastructure rebuilt is risk resilient is that they've incorporated the current building regulations as well as design features. They've also included sustainability and efficiency in terms of the stormwater system, which is a greywater system provided at the hostel, which uses stormwater for irrigation and flushing of toilets. There's a heat pump system installed for hot water in the hostel, and they've introduced LED lighting to lower the electricity consumption. Part of the rebuild, we included new hostel equipment, which has a hydro convection oven, which also saves on electricity.
The measurements that were put into the hostel, I felt like a child with a new toy when I saw some of the things that were going to be put in. As I started going through the rebuild and stuff, and we tested the integrity of the structure, I felt a lot safer because we were heard and they went out of their way to make sure that the structure was sound. And then as the rebuild went, they started just adding additional things, completely rebuilding certain areas which weren't effectively done. They improved the retaining walls around the building so we don't have to worry about slippage from flooding. So there were all these risk mitigation measures that the department took when they came in. A fancy fire suppression system and doors that close automatically to isolate fires, alarms all over the place. It was really exciting to see how seriously they'd taken the risks and what had happened to the hostel and how much thought had gone into making sure that those risks were mitigated, and if we were ever in a situation like that again, we would be better prepared for it.
We made sure that we submitted all the monthly reports, all the quarterly reports, but other than that, we ensured that we did site visits each and every time to pinpoint and ground truth all the projects that were assigned. We made sure that each and every report it's actually speaking to what we're seeing in the ground.
There was regular engagements with through WCD, Western Cape Disaster Management, the Knysna Municipality and the Eden District Municipality with regular site visits, ongoing reporting and engagements on a regular basis.
I think the leadership of the National Disaster Management Centre have came through in different incidents that we have responded to, particularly in terms of assisting with the application of the grant funding and then keeping us in our toes with the monitoring and evaluation of those disasters, ensure that accountability does take place. So we have a really good working relationship with the team that is responsible for monitoring of grants. Every time we do site visits, we do invite them and they do show up. We also have a good relationship with other departments, national departments, where the incident or the grant funding is into their project. So all in all, I would say relationships is the key to disaster coordination and disaster management in general.
There was no way that we could have done all of this without all the help that we received. So thank you very much to everyone that was involved.